What it do? What it do? It's your man B So 513 and I'm back again. Listen, I want to give a quick shout out to the 704 and the 980. And if anybody down there in South Kakalaki a Panthers fan, this for y'all too. So let's get it. First of all, gotta talk about Cam Newton, Mr. MVP, put on for the city for so many years. A lot of people in the industry saying this, saying that, all types of opinions. But at the end of the day, man, I've been a fan of him since my senior year in high school when he won a national championship and the Heisman Trophy at Auburn, and I just wish him the best with the rest of his career. But without further ado, let's talk about this roster. Starting off with the quarterback room. Teddy Bridgewater. Listen, I was a fan of him at Louisville. I guess he put Louisville on the map, and then Lamar Jackson came and did the same thing. But he took the Vikings to the playoffs. It's kind of sad how a guy can do that, get him a victory in the playoffs, and he get injured, and then it was just the end of his time. But grateful for him. He went down to New Orleans and resurrected his career and signed some big money. And I really think he will stabilize this position for the next couple of years. A guy that I'm really interested to see what he can do, maybe in the preseason or if Teddy gets hurt, is PJ Walker. Listen, I seen him play a few years ago with the Colts against my Bengals in the preseason game. And I was just trying to figure out who is this dude that's just dicing up my Bengals team in the preseason. He looked really good. And obviously he looked extremely good this past XFL season. In the XFL, you know, he probably would have been an MVP of that league. And I think that's a hell of a pickup. Another thing that's good about him being on you guys' team is that he played under Matt Rhule. So that's a good connection right there. And then Will Grier, listen, I remember Skip Bayless was real high on him coming out the draft or what have you. But at this point in his career, if I'm him, listen, dog, just sit back, soak up all the game you can get from, you know, Teddy, Joe Brady, anybody. Just, you know, when your reps come, just be prepared, plain and simple, learn the knowledge. And if your time or if your opportunity is not in Carolina, just stay ready because you might have success somewhere else in the league. Now we're going to talk about the running backs. Christian McCaffrey, listen, we already know his bloodline. This dude is a dog, one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best, Mr. Do-It-All. But the thing that scares me is the fact that it seems like there's no one behind him, and you don't want to risk him getting burnt out. I would like to see, you know, Curtis Samuel get a little more reps at the running back position. Like if he had 100 touches, I would like 50 to be run and 50 to be catches because Curtis Samuel pretty much was the running back at Ohio State. I know he ran a 4.31, but I would love to see him get touches in the backfield because clearly Christian McCaffrey, we all know, y'all know better than anybody how great of a player he is. A guy that I'm interested that you guys picked up in the offseason, undrafted free agent Rodney Smith out of Minnesota. He's the second all-time leading rusher at Minnesota. And we know Minnesota produced a couple running backs in the early mid 2000s in Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber. So I think, you know, with him having a great rushing, you know, career yardage record in the Big Ten, I think it's possibly that he might have been overlooked because Minnesota hasn't produced a lot of talent in the past 10 years or so. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the wide receivers right now. And, you know, I just mentioned Curtis Samuel. He's a hybrid type of player, and I would love to see him get more reps as a running back moving forward. And then, you know, DJ Moore. I mean, you guys know, I know, you know, him coming out of Maryland. I just felt like, you know, he was a beast. And at the draft, I remember Steve Smith almost verbatimly saying, you know, that they finally, you know, drafted a replacement for Steve Smith. Senior, of course, and listen, he's just a beast that's ready to be awakened. I think with Joe Brady down there calling plays, I would love to see him get schemed, you know, some plays that would scheme him to get open and see him make impact, like kind of like a Jamar Chase did down there in LSU, because he's really, you know, he's really an extremely talented receiver. He's fast, he can make the spectacular catches, you know, run the routes, a dynamic of an athlete. But then, you know, another guy that you guys picked up was Robbie Anderson. I was a big fan of him, you know, watching him up there in New York with the Jets. You know, I love tall receivers. He's not as, you know, as wide as I like the big body receivers, but he's tall and he's extremely fast. You know, only thing I question is, you know, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have a cannon of an arm, but if they can scheme the right plays up, you can get a couple deep balls, you know, to Robbie. Another guy that you guys picked up that I really love, undrafted free agent, which makes no sense, is Omar Bayless from Arkansas State. I seen him against Georgia. He looked good. This guy makes spectacular catches, run after the catch. He was top 3 in the nation, y'all, in yards and touchdowns, neck and neck with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. So this guy's extremely talented. He's extremely productive. He was extremely productive at a low school, and I can only imagine with him under Joe Brady and Matt Rhule in Carolina, the type of success he could have day one as an undrafted free agent receiver And then last but not least, I like Pharoh Cooper. I really liked him coming out, but I guess it hasn't really materialized. But if anything, I think you guys get you a nice returner insurance policy, and hopefully, he can be that 5th, 6th receiver that can come in and make plays if someone gets hurt throughout the season. Jumping in and talking about the tight ends, when I looked at you guys' roster, I didn't really see anyone that was familiar, so I just researched the newest guys, and I really looked up Giovanni, Ricci, Western Michigan. I watched his film against Michigan State, and then when I tell you guys, this guy looked amazing. He looked tall, athletic, and he can block. At his size, he looked like a hell of a blocker. He had great hands. I mean, he looks like, why did this guy didn't get drafted? But hey, sometimes it be like that. And then also another guy that you guys signed from the XFL, Colin, Thompson, tight end. He played under Matt Rhule at Temple. He's a solid blocker, really good blocker. And then he made a spectacular catch in the XFL. So I think, maybe he can make the team. I think both of these guys can. It's just something about college coaches. They know about certain players that the rest of the league doesn't. Okay, and so guys, I'm not going to talk about the offensive line. I tend to stay in my lane. So listen, if you guys want to tell me about your offensive line, just go ahead and comment below. I'm going to jump in and talk about the defense, though. Let's talk about Brian Burns, Florida State defensive end, guys drafted last year, won a great 40 time, extremely athletic defensive end. Someone, he's maybe not Julius Peppers, but I mean, you kind of want similarities in that edge rusher, and I think that's something that's great to build upon, especially considering the fact that you guys drafted my favorite defensive end in the draft, yetur gross-matos. I know I probably butchered his name, but so what? He's a beast from Penn State. And when I tell you guys, when I watched him, when the first time I saw him last year coming into the college football season, I was like, man, why did this dude remind me of Myles Garrett? Some of y'all might say, man, dude, you crazy. Dude, you tripping. Myles Garrett in the 2nd round pick? It don't matter. Listen, they got similar bodies, and when they make plays, they look just like each other. So I'm not saying he's going to be Myles Garrett, but if he can be 80% of Myles Garrett, and then you got old boy Brian Burns on the other side, now you got 2 bookends for at least the next 5 to 6 years. Another guy that I was really interested in seeing what he can do is FAO. But when y'all played the Bengals a couple years ago, it felt like he had 3 sacks and an interception, like just destroyed our offensive line. But I mean, I guess, he only had 1, but it felt like he did so much more. I don't know what happened the rest of his career. I know he came from France or what have you, or from a different country, but I really think, just watching what he did against the Bengals, that he still has a lot of potential that's untapped, and I would like to see him come in as a rotational defensive end. Defensive tackle position, Kwann Short, he was a beast, man, and I still think he can be a beast. I know he was hurt last year, but maybe he had his best success when you guys had Star Latulier right next to him. With you guys drafting Derrick Brown, that physical beast, I feel like if Kwann can stay healthy the rest of this year, with KK and D Brown down there in the middle, and then you got those 2 defensive ends, man, y'all guys can really, I'm talking about this season, really put pressure on a lot of teams, especially considering the fact y'all got to play against Tom Brady and Drew Brees, man. I think people sleeping on that defensive line. And then I know, Luke Kuechly, shout out to Luke Kuechly, he's from Cincinnati, my city. He retired, but Shaq Thompson, I've been a fan of him since he was at Washington. Talking about the linebackers, I remember when he was playing running back, so I was excited to see what he would do when he came into the league. I think with Luke Kuechly leaving, maybe you could move him inside or whatever, but I feel like he deserves that same clout because he's a dynamic athlete of a linebacker, and he's just a flat-out beast. You guys also signed Tahir Whitehead. I like this guy, man. He's a leader, man. He's one of them, like a real man, that type of leadership you need in the locker room. And I think that's just good for the culture, point blank, period. And then a guy that I'm sorry he went undrafted is Chris Orr from Wisconsin. Listen, he might have been overshadowed by Zach Bond, but man, this dude is a beast, man. He's like the prototypical linebacker, thumper, run, and chase. You know what I mean? He gonna tackle. He don't miss too many tackles. He's a do-it-all linebacker, and it's crazy because he has a great bloodline lineage of NFL players. His daddy, Terry Orr, played in the NFL as a tight end, won 2 Super Bowls for the Redskins. His brother, Zach Orr, was undrafted as well, but he went to the Ravens, and he was a second-team All-Pro in 2016 before he had a severe injury. And he had another brother who had a cup of coffee with the Chicago Bears. So, I mean, he has a great bloodline. He's a great player, and I think you guys are going to be shocked, coming day one. He possibly could start at the linebacker position. And then when we talk about the cornerbacks, man, Donte Jackson, man, this dude is a beast. Fastest cornerback in the league. It feels like, it seems like, it must be right. Like I said, I remember when he dominated the Bengals, man. Yeah, he might have had a down year last year or what have you, but I know this dude is a true number 1, and that's a solid cornerback. You guys drafted Troy Pride Jr. from Notre Dame, and I really feel like he's going to be a solid cornerback. I don't know if he expected to get drafted higher, but hopefully with him getting drafted in the 4th, that'd be like something he could put on his, motivational list, to inspire him to be a great player. You never know, man. He might come in day one. A guy that I'm really interested in is Stanley Thomas Oliver III, tall cornerback. I think from Florida International. When I watched his highlights or whatever in his film, he looked really tall and physical. He looked like he had those physical traits that I like in a cornerback: tall, lanky, and athletic. And I'm really excited to see what Matt Rhule can do with him, because it seems like Matt Rhule has an interest or has a certain type of cornerback he likes. That's why he signed Derrick Thomas, another cornerback, 6'3", who played at Temple, who played at Baylorr, who looked really good guarding Hakeem Butler. A guy that I was extremely high on in last year's draft, who went to the Cardinals. A guy that's not afraid to travel. He's not the most physical guy, but I mean, he's in the cornerback. If they're not scared to travel, man, that's one thing you gotta love in your cornerbacks, man. I really want to see what those two guys do. And I want to talk about the safeties. TJ Green. Listen, I don't know what happened in Indianapolis, but I was a big fan of him coming out of Clemson. He looked extremely athletic, tall, just everything you would want in a safety, but I don't know what happened. Maybe he could come in, make a few plays, but you guys are kind of deep at that position, considering the fact you brought back Trey Boston. Y'all know better than anybody how good this guy is as a defensive back, man. I mean, he was a beast for y'all. He was a beast for some other teams, and now he came back, and he's probably going to be a beast again. But the guy that I want to talk about is Kenny Robinson, West Virginia, excuse me. He played in the XFL. This guy probably would have been a top 15 pick if all of those things didn't happen. But I mean, this guy might have been the best safety in the draft. He's a beast. Everything you want: physical, anticipation, the range, all of those things. And then Jeremy Chinn. You guys took Jeremy Chinn in the 2nd round. This is somebody I was extremely high on. He's like a poor man's Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. He could play outside linebacker. He could rush the passer. He could play corner. He could play safety. I mean, if he was a Madden, his stick is going to be on 99. This dude is a beast. So I'm just really excited to see what you guys going to do. You guys have a great roster, quietly a great roster of young, talented players who might not be ready this year, but a year or two from now, I could really see you guys making noise down there in the NFC South. With guys like, Matt Rhule, you got to put some respect on their ability to scout players, or, just know who are the good players that in the college, football that all of these other teams are not familiar with, just for the simple fact that he was in college for all of these years. So I know I talked a lot about these undrafted free agents, but, I don't think Matt Rhule didn't pick these players, just because he wanted to pick them. Now, he picked them because he know who the hell they are. And then Joe Brady, man, the boy wonder genius. I would love to see, what he can do with Teddy Bridgewater and these weapons, and just get the most out of the team, man. I'm really excited to see what you guys can do. This video went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but hey, man, this be so 513. Make sure y'all comment below, tell me what y'all think, and I'm out. Let's get it.
And make sure y'all keep pounding.